box. We'll put our own space program. We'll put our own human being into orbit. The fact that we excluded them from our club, our spacefaring club, meant they then pioneered their own technologies to enable it. And now they have their own thriving space program, and they don't even need us.
Right.
And so, when you have a world like that, it's a sign that whatever's your own view of yourself, then propped up by an earlier period of glory. Never take it for granted, because the times of other countries rise and fall, as they've always been, and just as we're observing now for America.
And there's definitely, in terms of the space program, we did take it for granted, where we actually got bored with it. We're like, whatever, they're back up in space again.
Yeah, there it is, walking on the moon again. Yeah. And odd that we haven't even left low Earth orbit since 1972. We've been boldly going where hundreds have gone before, just in the space shuttle in low Earth orbit. So
part of what you do, and you're doing this on NOVA, and then through your work at the museum is trying to just explain to the layperson how important this stuff is.
Rather, I try not to say how important it is. I try to give them enough information they might have been missing to arrive at that conclusion on their own. And when they arrive at that conclusion on their own, it's a much more powerful, they can take ownership of that awareness. I don't like beating people over there. This is important. You must fund it. Do it. Yeah. I can't do that. I don't have the energy to do that. But I have the energy to share with you the awesomeness of the cosmos and the discoveries that unfold within it. And then you chew on that information. And I'm betting 9 out of 10 times you wake up the next morning saying, I'll be a part of this epic adventure.
And you also show how many people have cool jobs underneath all this stuff. There's so many people that you will see jobs that you didn't even know exist. People have dedicated their lives to. And something else I think that just drummed out of us as we're a kid, but that real creativity that goes into this kind of work, where we think of, science as memory or just math. But the fact is, people are sitting around thinking of bizarre things, then how to make that reality.
You said right. Kids, I'm going to flesh out what you just said. Kids are born scientists. They're curious about the world around them. They turn over rocks. They jump into puddles. They, as parents and as adults, we say, don't jump in the puddle. You get your clothes dirty. When in fact, there's an experiment in crater making. Okay, it's an experiment in fluid dynamics. If you look at it that way, you see children as being consistent and persistent experimenters of the world around them. And as adults, we beat it out of them, just like you said. We somehow eviscerate it of all that is glorious in what it is to discover the world around you. And we throw textbooks at them, heavy textbooks. We say, memorize this, here's an exam. And so I think that the key here it's not to how do you get kids interested in science, is how do you get out of their way so that they never lose it.
Wow. It's really, really true. Because eventually you're told, you're bad at this. You know what I mean? Like, you're not doing good. You're bad at it. And really, the thing that the kids have, that our greatest thinkers have, is curiosity. And we're born with curiosity. Somehow it gets pushed away. I remember once being really find the most amazing thing about how Chad came up to Chesapeake Bay, back to this little lake near where my summer house was. How did they know how to do it? And the adults just said, instinct. And that's the end of it for me, like, thinking about it, it's instinct. But that you could spend an entire lifetime on that one problem, and we have just an infinite amount of
You know,
those
it's funny, when we say instinct, the real answer is, we haven't a clue
right.
why they do this. So you just accept it. Oh, it's instinct. And then you go on to the next problem.
Nobody knows. Whatever.
If we could understand it, we certainly would have the explanation for it.
So when you're running a show like Nova, how do you guys come up with what's next?
We have really talented people. Nova is a product of WGBH, the PBS affiliate in Boston. And there's an entire building of people. Not only have the accountants and the folks who run the business, there's the intellectual capital represented in that enterprise. And there are interns that flow in and out. There are staff that are experts in sniffing out science topics that are not only interesting scientifically, but would also make good TV. Because that's one of the criteria. It has to look. That's why you'll see many fewer science segments on particle physics. Well, maybe you can show the accelerator itself, but the particle's not going to sit still for you and ask it to smile and take its picture. So there's the universe. It's a rich tapestry of cosmic imagery that we can share. So some fields better lend themselves to television than others. But it's a team of people that sniff out what might make good TV. We then produce them, and I host, and I'm your guide. And we're an organism in the effort of bringing science down to earth.
You've been involved in this kind of work your whole life, just not on this scale.
Yeah, not on that scale, and less so with TV. I still would prefer to look at real faces in an audience when I'm communicating. It's to look at a camera lens and just believe that people are paying attention to you. There are no cues. There's no feedback loop. Is he asleep? Is he reading a paper? I don't know. And so I actually have to heavily tap what I think will be their reaction as I'm delivering my lines based on actual reactions that I get from people when I'm in the real world. I have to sort of translate that over, hoping that I'm interpreting, saying accurately as they would be received by a listener.
And it's amazing now that the public speaking, when we send scientists out, how many people come interested. I mean, it's starting to draw now, like it was stand-up comedy or theater or whatever. I mean, a great
theater,
night out.
That's perfect. You put your finger on it. I think you don't have to go far back, 20 years, 25 years, when you can go months channel surfing, and you would never hit a science program. Maybe Marlo Perkins with the Mule Omaha, the animal or
stuff.
Who's the guy undersea? Jacques Cousteau. That was it.
Yeah.
Your entire exposure to science today, with all these networks, Discovery Network leading the way and others, History Channel's getting into the act, you don't have to channel surf more than a couple hours before you stumble on a show on the search for life, on black holes, on string theory. And we're living in a time where access to science is greater than ever before. And some of it is the personalities of the people delivering the content. And I'm happy to be on that landscape, one cog in a large wheel that did not exist in the time of Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan forged that path through the brush and bramble. It got a lot of resistance at the time. This is not what scientists should behave. Get back to the lab. What are you doing? Communicating this to the masses. And Carl Sagan was one of the first to realize that most of the science that we do is tax-based funded. Right. The National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health, NASA. And if you're paying the tax money for the work that I'm doing, it's not only a privilege that you should enjoy, it's your right to have one of us tell you how we're spending your money.
And also, I guess, so much of it we're willing to spend on military. So much like, we'll throw this to military, and it has whatever, asset that it holds there, but 99.9% of other things don't get taken care of or looked at the same way. You
know what I wonder? If we think of the future of war, maybe it's chemical warfare or biological warfare. If there's any such attack, are you going to call the Marines? Is that who you're going to call? If there's bioterrorism? No, you're going to call biologists to help you figure this out. So if war is the great driver of the spending of money, then maybe we're entering an era where we can view our intellectual capital as a security blanket, as opposed to just how many bombs and guns do you wield. And that would be a whole new time for us, I think.
Particularly since now scientists, I mean, it's kind of amazing when you think about it in terms of history, but how quickly now you can hook up with other scientists compared to what it would have been like 100 years ago.
Oh, exactly.
You're all together at any time, whether it's on, the telephone or whatever.
Exactly. And so it began with good telephone service, but then it led on, of course, to the internet. And the day where you would publish a paper and it would have to get translated and someone might not see it for a year. Now I publish a paper, I post it. Anyone who cares about that field sees it within 24 hours.
And comments as well. Right?
Yeah, exactly, which are the best part, because then if you got your, if you're doing it right or not. I mean, that's part of the peer review that science requires, so that you don't just float away into Never Never Land.
Well, I think one of the interesting things that has come up now, too,